Well, guess what, Darryn Peterson? Look in the damn mirror. And when you look in the mirror, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see an all-world player that people have mentioned in the same breath as Kobe Bryant. That's how terrific of a basketball player Darryn Peterson is.
Draft night, Barclays Center. The Utah Jazz are on the clock. A 19-year-old from Canton, Ohio walks up to Adam Silver. Handshake, cameras flashing everywhere, and before the moment has even settled, DeMarcus Cousins is already on broadcast saying the one thing you don't just say about any prospect.
I can see the Kobe in this game. I can see the self-confidence. I can see the isolation package.
That's not a comp you throw around. That's the comparison that ends careers before they start if you're wrong. And yet Cousins wasn't the first one to say it. He wasn't even close. Let's talk about what Darryn Peterson actually is. 6'5", 6'10" wingspan. A 200-pound frame built like he's been in the NBA for 3 years already. Nearly identical to the measurements Kobe Bryant carried into the league in 1996. He grew up in Canton, Ohio, the son of Darryn Peterson II, a college basketball player at Akron who never made it to the pros. His older brother was a football star. The athletic pedigree is there, but nobody handed him anything. By his freshman year of high school at Cuyahoga Valley Christian Academy, he was averaging 26 points and 10 rebounds a game. By his sophomore year, it was 31-9. He transferred twice, first to Huntington Prep, then to Prolific Prep in Napa. And by his senior year, he was posting 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists a night. He won Naismith Prep Player of the Year. He was the co-MVP of the McDonald's All-American Game. He was the consensus #1 recruit in the country. Bill Self, Kansas's head coach, a man who has coached national champions and first-round picks for decades, said about Peterson,
"Probably as good a player that I've ever coached, and the best freshman I've ever recruited."
When you've coached Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid, Mario Chalmers, and Frank Mason, that sentence means something. The comps being thrown around at the time were heavy. Bradley Beal was mentioned, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Ray Allen, but the one name that kept surfacing, the one that scouts kept coming back to in interviews and podcast breakdowns and pre-draft analysis, wasn't any of those guys. It was Kobe Bryant. Here's the thing about Kobe comps, they're usually lazy. Any shooting guard who can hit a mid-range pull-up gets called the next Kobe at some point. It's one of the most overused comparisons in scouting history. So when multiple people, scouts, analysts, NBA veterans, independently land on that same comparison for Darryn Peterson, you have to ask why. The answer starts with the footwork. Peterson doesn't get his shots the way most young scorers do. He doesn't just beat you athletically, he sets you up. He uses pivot moves and shot fakes and shoulder drops the same way Kobe did, manipulating defenders through angles and positioning rather than just blowing past them. One scout put it like this: with Darryn, he has those pivots, that 3-level scoring, that mid-range. He can post up and have fadeaway shots clean. But why he separates is because he's still so young, and he's so much more polished than most of those guys were. That polish, the early polish, is the specific thing that makes the Kobe parallel stick. When Bryant entered the league at 17 out of Lower Merion High School, people knew he was talented. But what nobody fully anticipated was how technically refined he already was. The footwork was there from day one. The shot creation was there. The willingness to take and make difficult shots, not just rely on athleticism, was there from the beginning. Peterson, at 19, has those same qualities. There's also the defensive profile. Kobe became famous for offense, but his defensive identity, the 6'7" wingspan, the active hands in passing lanes, the willingness to guard the other team's best player every single night, that was a core part of who he was, especially early. Peterson, with his 6 feet 10.5 inches wingspan, is already averaging nearly 1.5 steals a game in college. He's not a gambler. He doesn't reach. He positions himself and uses his length intelligently, which is exactly the thing that defined Kobe's defensive approach before it became legendary. And then there's the thing no scouting report can fully measure: the mentality. Kobe Bryant went 13th in the 1996 draft. 12 teams passed on him. He sat in the green room and watched it happen, one pick at a time, and every single one of those slights became fuel for the next 20 years. That draft night wound never fully healed, and it never needed to. It drove him. Peterson went number 2. Only one team passed on him. But don't tell him that matters. When the Washington Wizards called A.J. DeBonce's name first, Peterson was watching. And when it came time to face reporters a few minutes later, something clicked in his face that anyone who's ever watched Kobe clips will recognize immediately.
I can't go back and change anything now. Obviously, I wanted to be number 1 pick, but I went number 2. So there's always been a chip on my shoulder, so I wouldn't say it added anything else, but now it'll always be on my mind for my whole career.
He looked at a reporter. His voice was steady. No anger, no bitterness, just certainty. That's the Mamba mentality. Not the highlight reel version, not the motivational poster version, the actual version. The one where losing the number 1 pick slot on draft night doesn't break your spirit, it sharpens it. And it didn't stop there. When asked what comes next, Peterson answered,
"The celebration stops tonight. I got drafted today, but tomorrow I'm now an NBA player, so get home, I'm gonna work out until I gotta report to Utah."
He was asked what guided that mindset. He didn't hesitate.
Kobe's my guy, and I'm inspired by him. Just try to think, what would Kobe do right now? I think he'd get drafted and move on and try to go be the best him possible, so that's what I'm gonna do.
This isn't a guy borrowing the Kobe brand for marketing purposes. When Kobe was Peterson's age, he had the same obsession, not with being like Jordan or anyone else, but with developing the kind of craft that made the comparison eventually unavoidable. It didn't start with a comparison, it started with a standard. Peterson is starting there too. Now here's where this story gets honest, because for all the talent and all the mentality, Peterson's freshman season at Kansas was messy. He played 24 games. He missed 11, not because of anything structural. He dealt with recurring cramping issues that left coaches and scouts trying to separate the talent from the durability question. He had to be taken to the hospital during boot camp. He subbed himself out during games, which led to a massive load management controversy.
I can't trust him. I cannot. I'm looking at him on the camera. You cannot be trusted.
When you carry the Kobe comparison, any sign of physical vulnerability gets weaponized against you. The narrative shifted overnight from his footwork to his toughness. And even beyond the health stuff, his production was slightly diminished. He averaged 20.2 points, shot 43.8% from the field and 38.2% from 3, and did all of it in a limited role where he wasn't the primary ball handler. Critics pointed to his assist numbers, 1.6 a game, and wondered whether the playmaking would actually develop at the next level. Scouts who were skeptical noted that he could settle for contested pull-ups rather than taking higher percentage looks, a bad habit that young scorers sometimes fail to break. Newsweek ran a piece a few months before the draft with a headline that tells you everything you need to know about the friction. Darryn Peterson is not Kobe Bryant. The argument was that the similarities were there on paper and on film, but Peterson hadn't shown the mental fortitude and durability that the comparison actually demands. That the Kobe comp requires more than footwork and fadeaways. It requires proving you can carry a franchise night after night through adversity and injury without shrinking. Fair point. One college season doesn't prove that. But here's the other side of it. Kobe Bryant sat in the green room at 17, and 12 teams looked at his profile and saw risk. High school kid, hasn't played against men, too young, 2 or 3 years away from being NBA ready. He eventually got traded on draft night and became the greatest Laker in franchise history. When those 12 teams passed, they weren't wrong about everything. The concerns were legitimate. The difference is that Kobe made them irrelevant by the time he was 21. Peterson's concerns going into the draft, the cramping, the limited playmaking sample, the contested shot selection, are also legitimate. But the Jazz didn't select the concerns. They selected the player underneath them. And when you strip away the injury disruption and look at what Peterson actually produced in the games he played, the picture gets a lot sharper. He broke the Kansas freshman scoring record previously held by Andrew Wiggins, the #1 pick of his draft. He shot 38% from 3 in college. His 1.4 steals a game were a function of instinct, not gambling. And the one thing nobody disputed going into draft night, not the doubters, not the skeptics, not Newsweek, was the talent. NBA analyst Matt Babcock called him one of the most complete guard prospects in recent years. NBADraftRoom.com dropped the line that captured the whole thing in one phrase: Kobe with less bounce, more advanced Ray Allen at the same stage, better ball handling, better driving game. Better than Ray Allen. At the same age. Think about that for a second. Ray Allen became one of the best shooters in NBA history, a two-time champion, a Hall of Famer. And scouts are saying Peterson, right now at 19, is more advanced than Allen was at this stage of his development. Because Peterson can do things Allen never could off the dribble. That's the ceiling being discussed here. That's what the Jazz just drafted second overall. The Kobe comp carries weight because of what Kobe actually was, not just as a scorer, but as a system of becoming. What made Bryant extraordinary wasn't the 81-point game, or the 5 rings, or the fadeaways. It was the obsessive, methodical, daily commitment to building a game that nobody could take away. The footwork that didn't rely on youth or athleticism, but on understanding, on craft. The competitive fury that turned every slight, every doubt, every team that passed on him into fuel. That architecture is rare. It can't be taught from the outside. It has to live in the player. And the thing that makes the Darryn Peterson conversation different from every other Kobe comp you've seen thrown around since 2008 is that Peterson isn't borrowing the aesthetic. He's borrowing the operating system. He's not trying to mimic the fadeaway because it looks cool. He studied why the fadeaway works, the way it removes the defender's ability to contest cleanly, the way it creates leverage from the body that pure athleticism can't replicate, and he's applying it at 19. When he walks into the Jazz facility this fall, he'll join a roster with real pieces around him: Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Keontae George, Ace Bailey. This isn't a lottery team asked to wait 3 years. There's a chance Peterson is competing for a playoff spot by spring. And the chip on his shoulder? He didn't create that after the draft. He walked in with it. He said himself, "There's always been a chip on my shoulder. I wouldn't say it added anything else." The number 2 slot just gave that chip a permanent address. Nobody knows for certain what Darryn Peterson becomes. That's the honest truth. Basketball is long, and the league is hard, and plenty of guys who looked like the next Kobe faded before anyone noticed. But what we do know is this: a 19-year-old from Canton, Ohio, just walked onto the biggest stage in basketball with a Kobe tattoo on his shoulder and told the world, on the night he was drafted, that the celebration was already over, that he was going home to work out, that the guy who went number 1 was still on the screen, still in his mind, and would be his whole career. Kobe Bryant wasn't compared to anyone when he came out of Lower Merion. He came in with the intention of becoming the comparison himself. Darryn Peterson isn't trying to be Kobe Bryant. He's trying to build what Kobe built. And if you've been paying attention, really paying attention, that's actually much more dangerous.